Well, good morning all. Not the best weather for it, but we'll make do. So we're on our way today to BHP UK to get the Voge 800 on the dyno. So we're going to get some mapping done, see what power it makes, see if we can get a little bit more power and maybe have a look at the low end throttle response, just to make things a little bit smoother. So I do have the original exhaust on the back, as in on the back seat. I'm still running the Scorpion at the moment, and I also have the original air filter because I'm currently running the DNA. So we'll see what they say when we get there. We've got the heated seats. We haven't got the heated seats on, they've turned off since we went to get fuel. Right, now we've got the heated seats on, we've got the heated gloves on, we've got the heated grips on. My toes are a little bit cold, but apart from that we're alright. But we'll take it easy, we've got a couple of hours right now to get there. So I'll catch you later on. Well, we're now in Burnley, pretty much tropical weather conditions. It's now 0 degrees. So that's warmed up from the -2 it was before. So only a minute to go. Let's try not to drop it on the last corner. Oh, my feet are cold. My ass was absolutely roasting, to be honest, but heated seat, heated gloves, heated grips. Still cold. Right, and here we are, BHP UK. Here we are now at BHP UK. As you can see, the bike got absolutely filthy on the way down. So I've brought some tools and the standard air filter, and I also have the standard exhaust if we need to put that back on. So I'm going to connect now to the OBD port and take an ID and a reading of the map of the bike before we get started. So we've got 20 odd minutes now wait whilst it reads the ECU. So we're just getting it onto the dyno now, getting it ready. So we've done some dyno running now, and we're going to change the air filter back to the stock filter. So we just got to remove the steering damper as per my original install video. Change that back to the original filter and then run it again. So off camera we've just switched that air filter out. So it's got the stock air filter back in now, and the DNA one is back in its box. And now we're going to remove this grubby exhaust and put the stock exhaust back on for some back-to-back testing. So that's the bike back to stock standard now. So we've also put the original exhaust back on. So that's the standard exhaust can and link pipe. And as I already said, we've got the original air filter back in. So this is bog stock now.
So as far as the hardware mods are concerned, the end can and the air filter have given you 3 horsepower at the top end, or just over, actually 4 horsepower. And lower down in the rev range, they've also given you about 4 horsepower.
So you're looking there between like 3,000 and 5,000, you've got
5.5.
Yeah, you've got 3 or 4 horsepower. And then again a kick up at the top, from
end as well, yeah.
8,000.
So at that point you've gone from 79 to 83 at peak output.
Cool.
Yeah, so it has made a difference.
So we went on the dyno yesterday. It was freezing cold on the way there. We set off first thing. And then we spent 7 hours down at BHP UK. And then it was soaking wet and freezing cold and dark when we were coming home. The bike got absolutely filthy on the way there, as you saw earlier. So now it's time to give it a bit of a clean. But I kind of felt that looking at the footage from last night, I just went through some of the dyno runs and then just cut it, and that was the end of the videos. I didn't really do an outro and I didn't really discuss the results. We did that many runs yesterday with the exhaust and the air filter changes and different lambda sensors in the dyno, different hoses down the exhaust. We did 25%, 50%, 75%, 100% throttle positions. We were on the dyno for hours and I honestly can't remember all of the results. So I still need to get the PDF documents off BHP UK, but I recall it being about 79 brake horsepower when we first went down there, and we kind of did the test back to front really. I went down there with the Scorpion exhaust on and the DNA filter already installed. So we ran a base run with the stock ECU mapping with the DNA filter and the exhaust, and it made just about 80 brake horsepower. And then we did lots of mapping with the bike in that format, and we got about 4 or 5 horsepower top end. But what we did notice the most was the lower throttle positions. We managed to get a significant chunk of power and torque around about the mid throttle positions. It was only 2 or 3 brake horsepower, but that makes quite a substantial difference when you're only getting, say, 15 or 20 horsepower down at those throttle positions. I've done this in the wrong order really. I should have put the water in first and then put the detergent, because it's just foaming up as I fill it in. But anyway, top tip for you, do that. So I'm using this Built Humber Suffix HD, which is an all-purpose cleaner. So I'm just going to spray that all over the bike to try and get some of the road grime off. But yeah, going back to the dyno runs, I will get all the PDF documents, I will get all the graphs, and I will go through them in detail. So one of the main things we wanted out of the day was a lot of people, including myself, have noticed that at the low throttle positions, just on the on-off, just because there is a bit of a slack in the throttle, and just as you go on and off, you get a weight transfer and a kind of, you can tell that it's a subtle on-off. Now to combat that, the mapper did put some fuel in at the lower RPMs and also made sure that there was still some fuel going in when the throttle was closed on deceleration, and that has improved the weight transfer. You still feel that there is off throttle and then on the throttle, but it's nowhere near as defined as it was. And in the upper gears, like say 4th, 5th, 6th, you don't notice it at all. It's just that the lower gears at the lowest speed, there is still a small on-off, and I'm not sure that that can be taken away with mapping. We're unsure of what more they could do. It could just be the characteristics of a 800cc parallel twin. I'm not sure, but it definitely feels like it has more mid-range pull and it is quicker up through the gears. And I rode it back with the stock exhaust and the stock air filter, so I do need to change them back to the Scorpion and the DNA, which will give me another 3 or 4 brake horsepower. That's what we noticed, the drop, once we put it back to the standard. So I'm going to give this bike a clean now, and then we will change the exhaust and the filter back. This isn't a bike washing video really, and I've already done a video on changing the exhaust and changing the air filter, so I'll link them in the description and put them on screen. But I'll get the dyno graphs and the brake horsepowers, and I'll do a bit of a voiceover on those so we can see the before and after, so what you'll gain if you do get a map from BHP UK. So for now, I'm going to crack on with this, but if you've enjoyed the dyno footage and are interested in that, then please give us a like and subscribe. And as always, I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks very much for watching. Bye bye. So I couldn't sign off without actually riding the bike after the remap. So I'm just having a quick nip out, need to go and put some fuel in, but I thought I would just try and show some demonstrations of the fueling now at the lower revs, like the off throttle there. Right, I'm going to do a few examples here. So here we are in a 20, doing 20 in second. You can feel it on and off ever so slightly, but in third, going up to 30, you can feel it ever so slightly, like the on and off. But we can now do 30 miles an hour in 4th gear below 3000 revs, which I would have never have dreamed of before. That's just chugging away nicely at 30 miles an hour in 4th. And now when you roll off the throttle, it's actually a lot smoother in 4th gear. So the higher up the gears you go, the better the on-off throttle becomes. So here's another example. We're now doing 27, 26 in 4th gear, and it just picks up no problem. And the on-off throttle here at 30 miles an hour in 4th, there is still, you can still feel when you come off the throttle, but not much at all. And then as an example in third gear at 30 miles an hour, you can feel it ever so slightly, but not much. So whilst we're in this neck of the woods, we'll just pop in now to Bridgegate Motorcycles and see Dan Stewart and see if you can just turn off this service light. The service reminder's still on because we actually did the service, the first service, just before the 1,000 kilometers. We actually did it at 600 miles. So we're just slightly short. So now that the spanner's on, we'll just see whether or not he can turn that off for us whilst we're here.